A'ja Wilson didn't expect her leaked interview to go viral where she got caught talking with NBA players and saying the quiet part out loud. She's talking about the attacks against Caitlyn Clark, and she's naming Angel Reese right alongside her. This isn't two players competing hard. This is two players admitting they planned it all along. This isn't the first time A'ja Wilson's gone after Caitlyn Clark. This is a pattern, and it just got a lot more damning. Why is Wilson so jealous of Caitlyn? Let me know down in the comments below.
It happens all the time in the men's game.
Right.
It happens still a lot in your guys' game,
Yeah.
but it was made such a big deal on that stage. What was your guys' take as pros?
I was laughing.
Every day.
It's
It's a part of the
Shit
game.
happen every day, B.
I was like, if we're overreacting at this, good lord.
Crazy.
Where's our game
We
going?
say worse things to white boys playing basketball when we play.
100%.
Particularly
Most fans think this whole beef kicked off the moment Clark got drafted. It didn't. You gotta go back to college, back before the WNBA had anything to do with it, because that's where A'ja Wilson first started taking shots. In 2024, Wilson sat down for an interview and brought up Clark's college career, and she didn't hold back. She said, "You gotta win one. I feel like that college is one of those spaces where you got to win one for them to even have your name in the conversation."
Caitlyn Clark, I'm sure you saw, just became the all-time scoring leader in women's college basketball. I'm curious, where would you rank her amongst all-time college players, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's tough because you got to win one. I feel like that college is one of those spaces where you got to win one for them to even have your name in the conversation. And it took me 3 years to win mine, so it's hard.
Read that again. Clark became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history, men's or women's, and Wilson's response was basically, "Yeah, but no ring." Meanwhile, Wilson won hers at South Carolina, a program that pulls in 5-star recruits like it's nothing every single year. Clark carried Iowa, a school that hadn't sniffed a title game in decades, to back-to-back championship games basically by herself. Comparing those two situations and acting like it's the same thing doesn't add up. And fans caught on to that fast, and the timing wasn't random either. Wilson dropped that comment right when Clark's popularity was exploding nationally, when every sports network wanted a piece of her. That's not a coincidence, that's a reaction. Then there's the moment during the Final Four, the one people still bring up today. Wilson got caught live saying Clark's attention came down to privilege, and she wasn't talking about money or family background. She said, "Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of like, not really about me." She knows, and she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point.
Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say it's not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball, but like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a compliment.
This isn't surprising, since she already said Caitlyn Clark was only popular because she's white. First of all, why are you immediately looking at someone based on their race or level of privilege? Why not look at someone's skill set or their character?
She's tying Clark's whole rise to race, not to basketball, and she didn't stop there either. In a separate interview with the Associated Press, she said, "I think it's a huge thing. I think a lot of people may say it's not about black and white, but to me it is." She added that black women are still going to be swept underneath the rug, and that it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. Now look at what Clark was actually doing on the court during this stretch. She's selling out arenas on the road as a college kid, something almost nobody in women's college basketball had ever done consistently. Her games are pulling in TV numbers that outdraw a lot of pro sports. The Wall Street Journal straight up called her the GOAT of TV ratings. Estimates put her economic impact on the state of Iowa alone at $82 million. That's one player in college moving numbers like that. So when Wilson says privilege and the actual data says record-breaking performance and skill, the comment doesn't hold up. It just looks worse the more you look at it. Compare that to how other veterans handled Clark's rise. Kelsey Plum praised her. Sabrina Ionescu praised her. Even Rebecca Lobo, who's been around the WNBA for almost 3 decades, said she'd never ever seen anything like this. Wilson's the outlier here, the one who kept steering the conversation back to race and rings instead of just talking basketball like everybody else. And once fans started pulling up these old clips side by side, Next to the race thing comments Wilson made later about Clark's Time Award, the pattern got impossible to ignore. This wasn't one bad take in one interview. Wilson built this narrative piece by piece, years before Clark ever put on a WNBA jersey, and that early groundwork is exactly what carried straight into the money once Clark turned pro. Here's something people forget. Wilson already had a shoe deal with Nike before Clark signed a single pro contract. The A1 was already in development, already promised, already hers. So when Clark signed her own deal, an 8-year, $28 million contract that became the largest shoe deal in WNBA history, Wilson's reaction didn't make sense on the surface. She turned it into a month-long campaign about being overlooked, posting cryptic lines like, "What's delayed isn't denied," like she was the one getting snubbed. Except she wasn't getting snubbed at all. She already had the deal, she just didn't have Clark's deal.
I kept thinking the best player in the league should have her own shoe, not just about shoes.
You think?
Yes. Right? I want to get your thoughts on that. Because
You don't
that's
need
the
my
way-
thoughts. You already know my thoughts.
But that's how young kids, when you're a fan of LeBron, you're a fan of Asia. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
She needs her own shoe. Let me answer that. She is the two-time MVP. I'll toot her horn because she won't. Olympic gold medalist, best defensive player, 2 years running. Her team, stop.
That's the part that gets lost. This wasn't Wilson watching a rookie get something she'd never have. This was Wilson watching a rookie outperform her financially in year one and having to sit with that in public. Rachel Demita, a sneaker analyst, went as far as saying Clark's deal actually undervalued her, that she should be making $28 million a year, not over 8 years given what she's doing for the sport. Nick DePaula predicted Clark's signature shoe could turn into a $150 million business on its own. So while Wilson's posting about being overlooked, insiders are out here saying Clark's deal was actually too small for what she's worth. Then the Time Athlete of the Year award drops, and Wilson can't help herself again. She goes on record saying, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is." That's a direct shot at Clark's win, framing it as race instead of merit. But look at what Time actually bases that award on. Clark broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, men's or women's. She's the reason WNBA viewership and attendance numbers exploded across the league. She's the most powerful female athlete in the world by every measurable business standard. None of that is about skin color. That's about record books and TV contracts. And Wilson's comment falls apart the second you check the numbers.
Asia Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is."
And it didn't stop at shoes and awards. Clark started pulling in $100,000 per speaking engagement, booked for events like the Long Island Association's Fall Conference, the kind of high-level corporate rooms most athletes never get invited into. Wilson's camp leaked that she charges $110,000 for her own appearances, just slightly higher, like it was some kind of statement. Except nobody was booking Wilson at that rate the way they were booking Clark. It read less like confidence and more like keeping score. Look at the Forbes numbers, because they don't lie. In 2025, Clark landed at number 4 on Forbes' list of the most powerful women in sports. Wilson landed at 15. Clark's rookie season alone brought in an estimated $8.1 million between Nike, Gatorade, and Wilson. Forbes called Clark the spark that lit the match that set women's sports on fire. That's not a race thing, that's a business thing. And Wilson's name wasn't anywhere near the top of that list despite being a 4-time MVP.
That's crazy, because literally nobody asked, and sources close to Asia Wilson decided to answer anyway.
Stack all of it together, the shoe complaints, the Time comment, the speaking fee leak, and you stop seeing random incidents. You start seeing someone tracking Clark's every business move and reacting to it in public, every single time. Wilson wasn't upset about being ignored. She was upset about being outperformed by a rookie who hadn't even played a WNBA game yet, and she knew exactly what the numbers said about her. So what happens when that kind of resentment stops staying in interviews and starts showing up in how hard she plays against Clark on the court? Wilson sat down on all the smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. And what came out of that conversation is why fans are still sending this clip around. The hosts brought up the Angel Reese and Clark mix-up from the 2023 Final Four, and Jackson said the quiet part out loud. Then Wilson jumped in, laughing, and said, "I feel like that's like the unwritten Hooper rule." Listen to that again. She's calling it a rule. Not an accident, not a heat-of-the-moment thing, a rule players follow on purpose.
All NBA players go harder on white boys on the court. That's just how it's always. Like even Larry Bird. Larry Bird got guarded by a white guy. He was like, "Y'all don't have any brothers?"
Yeah.
That's what Larry Bird said.
He felt disrespected.
Yeah, he felt disrespected.
I feel like that's like the unwritten Hooper rules.
This wasn't framed as tough defense or normal playoff intensity. This got framed as a strategy, something players agree on before the ball even goes up. And Wilson's the one confirming it exists. She didn't correct Barnes or Jackson. She didn't push back on the idea. She laughed and added her own line to it. That's the difference between getting asked about physical play and actually admitting there's a plan behind it. And here's why it slipped out instead of coming across calculated. Podcasts like that run loose, guys are laughing, trading stories. Nobody's thinking about clips getting pulled and posted 3 separate times online. Wilson wasn't sitting across from a reporter with a mic in her face. She was hanging out with 2 retired NBA players who created that exact space for players to say things they wouldn't say in a press conference.
Happens all the time in the men's game.
Right.
It happens still a lot in your guys' game, but it was made such a big deal on that stage. What was your guys' take as pros?
I was laughing.
Every day.
It's a part of the game.
Shit happen every day. B.
I was like, if we're overreacting at this, good lord.
Crazy.
Where's our game
We
going?
say worse things to white boys playing basketball when we play.
100%.
Given everything Wilson's already said publicly, this isn't shocking. It's confirmation. She questioned Clark's championship resume in college. She called her privileged on a hot mic before this one. She said Clark's Time Award came down to race. Every one of those moments primed people to believe the next comment, and this one landed exactly where fans expected it to. The WNBA's response has been silence, plain and simple. No statement from the league, nothing from the Aces, nothing from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, despite the clip racking up views for weeks. Compare that to how fast leagues usually move on player conduct issues, and the quiet here says a lot on its own. Now line that up with what actually happened on the court. Clark got hip-checked, poked in the eye, and struck in the throat. Incident serious enough that 11 lawmakers sent a letter to Engelbert demanding an investigation, writing that these plays go far beyond routine physical play. Once you put Wilson's podcast comments next to those specific incidents, it stops looking like rough basketball and starts looking exactly like what she described: a plan.
Caitlyn Clark at number 6. So there you have it. She finished number 6. There is not another women's basketball player on this list. So when y'all try to have these nonsense conversations about who's the face of women's basketball, I mean, come on. It's not rocket science. This is not hard to figure out. Caitlyn Clark is the face of female of the WNBA clearly, but Caitlyn Clark's damn near the face of basketball, period, male and female.
Reese's name came up in that same podcast conversation before Wilson ever said a word, tied directly to the Final Four incident with Clark. Reese has her own track record of jabs at Clark going back to college, and hearing her name brought up in a discussion about going harder on white players connects her straight to what Wilson admitted to. Kelsey Plum even said it herself on a podcast, describing what it's like being a white girl coming into a league with 85% black women that want to take your head off. At the time, people called that an exaggeration. Wilson's hot mic moment confirms Plum wasn't exaggerating anything at all, and now there's audio to back up exactly what Clark's been dealing with every night on the floor.
Here it says, in Sportico's year-end list of highest paid female athletes of 2025, Clark ranks 6th overall, earning a combined $16.1 million in 2025 from salary, winnings, and endorsements. It represents a $5 million increase from 2024 when she placed number 10 with 11.1. So We up 5 M's in an injury-riddled season. This is legit, man. Am I surprised? No. I mean, it's the GOAT. It's the GOAT. I'm not surprised at all.
Walk into any sporting goods store right now and look at the clearance rack. That's where you'll find A'ja Wilson's shoe marked down, sitting there months after release, still not sold out. Now scroll through Nike's social media and you'll see something completely different. Every post, every story, every countdown is about Caitlyn Clark's shoe, and it hasn't even officially dropped yet. Nike built a full commercial around Clark called From Anywhere, featuring the Kelsey brothers, showing her carrying her own shoes into the arena on game day. On June 18th against the Atlanta Dream, Clark warmed up in a blue colorway nobody had seen before, and fans in the building had their phones up before she even finished stretching. Clips hit social media before the game tipped off. No paid placement needed, just people filming it themselves because they wanted to. That's the kind of reaction brands pay millions trying to manufacture, and Nike got it for free.
You had the reaction at the time, the delayed not denied post from A'ja Wilson, and then A'ja's shoe comes out and so on and so forth, and that was a big rollout. And there was speculation that Nike was worried about stepping on toes or offending anybody by launching CeCe's shoe ahead of everybody else, even though she got the big deal and is the most popular and all that. But it's coming.
Compare that to Wilson's rollout. Her shoe launched with a normal press push, some ads, some social posts, and then it faded. No countdown, no reveal moment, no commercial with anybody. Just a shoe sitting on shelves getting discounted at Foot Locker while Clark's shoe hasn't even hit stores, and analysts are predicting a sellout measured in minutes based on search traffic alone. Nick DePaula, a sneaker insider who tracks this stuff for a living, said Clark's shoe could become a top 5 signature franchise across basketball and turn into a $150 million business on its own. Nobody's saying that about Wilson's shoe. And it's not just fans buying in either. By December 2025, Clark's Kobe Player Edition shoes were already the most worn shoe in the entire NBA, ahead of shoes from guys actually playing in the league. NBA players have access to literally every shoe on the market, and they're choosing to wear Clark's anyway, voluntarily, in real games. That's not something Nike can fake with a marketing budget. That's players deciding on their own that her shoe is the one worth wearing.
But it's coming. And I think what it really means is, number one, Nike is going all in on Caitlyn Clark after a while, after a little bit of a dormant period. Number two, 2026 is going to be just absolutely massive for her from a marketing standpoint because of that injury. And, because there's going to be such a thirst and hunger to see her play.
So is this a coincidence? Look at the timing. Wilson's hot mic comments about targeting Clark hit right as Nike started pulling back on her marketing. Her race comments about the Time Award, her month-long campaign complaining about being overlooked, all of it stacked up right as sponsors started re-evaluating who they wanted attached to their brand. Companies track this stuff closely because a player known for public complaints and conflict turns into a risk, not an asset. Brands don't want their shoes tied to somebody who might say something controversial on a podcast next month. Clark's public image is basically the opposite. She shows up, plays team basketball, lets her teammates talk about wins instead of grievances, and stays out of the drama Wilson keeps creating. Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, and Sophie Cunningham don't post cryptic messages about press coverage or awards. They just play. That's exactly the kind of environment corporate partners want their money sitting in. Quiet, consistent, controversy-free.
I mean, it's one of them ones that's going to set the market on fire and really help Nike's stock, I believe. And whatever the reason for the delay, some of it could just be the production and how long it takes to put all these things together, put a plan like this in place, put a rollout in place.
So when Wilson posted about being forgotten after Nike's marketing shift, she confirmed the exact thing sponsors were worried about. A confident player with a shoe people want doesn't need to remind anyone it exists. The shelves clear out on their own. Wilson's post did the opposite. It read like a reaction, and people picked it apart online as proof of exactly the insecurity brands try to avoid. Her shoe struggling to move after months on the shelf isn't bad luck. It's the direct bill coming due for the reputation she spent years building, one comment at a time. None of this was ever really about basketball. It was about money, ego, and a league scrambling to handle a hierarchy shift nobody predicted moving this fast. Wilson's shoe sits discounted while Clark's hasn't even dropped yet, and that gap says everything. Keep watching, keep calling out the double standards, because the tape and the numbers already told you everything Wilson wouldn't. Why is Wilson so jealous of Caitlyn? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications as we're bringing you all the action and top stories. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.